We left Santa Cruz Island last night after supper and then traveled 5.5 hours overnight to Isla Genovesa, where we're going to spend the day. When we get to Genovesa, we will anchor the boat near Darwin Bay Beach, which is going to be our first stop in the morning. As we will do most mornings on this trip, we start early so as to be at our destination right at dawn and do our hiking in the cooler part of the day. When we arrive on the beach, we see sea lions, lots of birds near the shore, frigate birds soaring overhead. The white sand that makes up the beach consists of broken bits of coral heads that had lived in the bay for the previous 500 years, but died during the El Nino warming event in 1982. And then the corals were subsequently broken up by wave action to form the beach. And apparently over 95% of the corals across the archipelago were lost during that event. Most of us spent the first bit of time on the beach watching this playful sea lion pup. Well, that was fun, but we really should look at some of the other fauna here. Genovesa is one of the few places in the Galapagos Islands that have a large population of red-footed boobies. The feet of the red-footed booby have an opposable thumb, which allow them to grasp branches, and so they can nest in trees above any ground predators. It's an evolutionary advantage. Compare that to the other two species of boobies, which do not have this feature and nest on the ground. The red-footed boobies in the Galapagos Islands have two main color phases, from white with black on their wings to entirely brown. The brown phase is the most common one. Anecdotally, boobies got their name from the way they walk, which reminded early Spanish sailors of clowns with big feet, and also from the Spanish word bobo for silly. This next bird is a Swallow Tailed Gull, which is unique among the gulls in that it feeds exclusively nocturnally, mostly on fish and squid, which they themselves rise to the surface at night to feed on plankton. In order to see while hunting for food at night, This gull's eyes are larger in size and volume than those of any other gull. The swallow-tailed gull is not exactly endemic to the Galapagos, although their main breeding location is here in the islands. When not breeding, the swallow-tailed gull is totally pelagic. It flies and hunts over the open oceans, migrating eastwards to the coasts of Ecuador and Peru. So these gulls breed asynchronously, which means they do not have a set breeding season, and nests can be found throughout the year. Breeding adults have a black plumaged head with a bright red fleshy rim around each eye. Outside the breeding season, the head is white and the eye rim becomes black. The swallow-tailed gulls have black and white speckled eggs, and they build nests by picking black and white stones to form a circular nest, and these stones help camouflage the egg. There's lots of prickly pear cactus on the island, and this particular species of Opuntia isn't really so prickly. The spines are fairly soft, and the plant grows low to the ground. Later on, we're going to find on other islands where tortoises exist that do eat the cactus. Then on those islands, the species of cactus that grows there does have sharp, hard spines, and the pads tend to grow above the reach of the tortoise. This is a small groundfinch in a patch of sea purslane. Later this afternoon, we'll see a large groundfinch, which is a different species and has a bigger beak. Another endemic bird species is the Galapagos dove. They have really good flight capabilities, so the species is fairly homogeneous between all of the different islands. Unlike the intense speciation that are found in the less mobile Darwin's finches. They have a long downward curved beak, which helps them feed on seeds and fruits from the ground. This is a frigate bird. There are two species, the magnificent and the great. They're very similar in appearance. The Spanish would call them pirate birds and man o' wars because of their habit of stealing food from other birds. The frigate bird builds a nest using guano as kind of a glue to hold the sticks together, located high in trees or bushes. Throughout the first month of their lives, chicks are continuously watched over by their parents and have soft white down. The juvenile frigate bird, though, is fed by its parents for the next 5 or 6 months, and at this point the father gives up, the mother takes over for the next 6 to 9 months. Because there's so much time-consuming effort in raising a newborn chick, frigate birds typically only reproduce once every 2 years. The frigate bird has an exceptionally large wingspan. It's actually the largest wingspan to body weight ratio of any bird in the world. It has a distinctive W-shaped wing profile that allows them to soar with minimal effort. Charles Darwin called them the condor of the oceans because they can fly without flapping their wings for hours and even days at a time on the warm equatorial thermal air currents. Despite being a seabird, the frigate bird does not have a protective waterproof coating on its feathers, so it cannot actually dive to catch fish for itself. So instead, the frigate bird either plucks the prey right from the surface of the water with its long bill, or takes a more aggressive approach at securing a meal. After spending quite a bit of time on the beach, we now walk over to a nearby tide pool. The ruddy turnstone is one of the small shorebirds that we see, but it's not endemic to the islands. It's seen in other places. We saw this yellow-crowned night heron near the base of this large cactus, waiting by the tide pool. The night heron is endemic to the Galapagos. It's a common native resident. They're fond of crustaceans, and they catch their food mainly at night, hence the name. The cactus finch is endemic to the Galapagos, found on most islands. These finches rely on cactus flowers and the seeds and fruit for food. And the majority of finches wait for the flower to open in the morning, and then they feed on the pollen. But some, like this one, arrive early, and they end up destroying the flower to get at the food. And then, of course, in years in which there's a drought and the flowers don't pollinate, there'd be no seed or fruit, and food availability for the whole group of finches will drop off, and many finches could starve. Marine iguanas are the only reptile on Genovesa, and these here are the smallest to be found in the archipelago. Coming back to the beach, we see this whimbrel. It's an easily recognized large wading bird that has this long, down-curved bill. We return to the boat and have lunch, and then afterwards, this afternoon, we're going to take our pangas out to the other side of Darwin Bay to see if we can spot another endemic species, the elusive Galapagos Short Eared Owl, which can be found along the fault cracks in the lava field. Along the way, we spot a Swallow Tailed Gulls chick that had fallen down close to the surf zone. Joe had rescued it by getting it to jump into his hat, which he then lifted up to the original ledge where it was from. Continuing on our way, after our humanitarian mission was successful, we see another night heron on the cliff face. The Galapagos fur seal is the smallest of all the eared seals. It is endemic to the Galapagos Islands. They look similar to sea lions, but because fur seals have thicker coats, more fat, they typically rest in the shade like these two, whereas sea lions usually rest on beaches in the sun. Also, fur seals usually hunt at night, so they're less active during the day. The fur seal pups rely on their mother's milk for a long time, for the first 18 months, and in fact, if conditions are poor, weaning of the pups may be delayed for up to 2 or 3 years. Here is one of the famous Galapagos blue-footed boobies nesting on the cliff. Unlike the red-footed boobies that we saw earlier today, the blue-footed boobies don't have opposable thumbs, so they have to nest on the ground. The panga ride ends at this 81-foot stairway, which takes us up to the plateau that surrounds the southern portion of Darwin Bay. Here we see the largest of the 3 boobies in the Galapagos, the Nazca booby. Their orange beak and their black-tipped feathers, very white plumage, are very distinguishing characteristics and make them look very distinguished. Nazcas attract their mates through a dance. The male initiates the dance and the female copies the movement. The dance is thought to indicate the location of a planned nest, and I'm not sure if the male here is completely convinced the female that he's the one. On the other hand, these two seem to be getting along. Like the blue-footed booby, the Nazca also nests on the ground. This one has used small bits of stick to build a nest. And here is an example of one where they used rocks to build the nest. Nazca boobies continue to feed their chick until it's ready to leave the nest, which typically occurs when the chick's around 100 days old.
Lots of things to say.
Boobies hunt fish by diving from height into the sea. and then pursuing their prey underwater. They have facial air sacs under the skin that cushion the impact with the water. As we near the end of the trail, we walk across a lava flow that at one time was flat but is now folded due to fault movement. Not much grows here on the lava field except the lava cactus, which is a colonizer of these lava fields, hence its common name. It forms these spiny clumps that are up to 2 feet tall. It is endemic to the Galapagos Islands. And here's another one of Darwin's finches. This is the large ground finch. It has a very thick beak, which allows the bird to feed on large seeds, but also to crack and consume nuts, and gives it a variety of food sources that it's available to it. Well, we finally spotted the elusive short-eared owl. These birds hunt by flying low over the ground and catching their prey by surprise. And on Genovesa Island, they've developed kind of a unique behavior to aid in hunting these storm petrels that roost in tunnels in the lava. The owls wait in hiding near the tunnels and then leap on the petrels as they enter or exit the tunnels. One of the interesting and unique flora here on the Galapagos is the Palo Santo tree. There are 2 species, one endemic and one widely seen throughout South America. Most of the year the tree has a gray-white bark, but during the rainy season it has bright green leaves on it. The Palo Santo tree is often called an incense tree because of the incense-like scent that comes from the oil and resin in its branches. The words Palo Santo translates to the saint's stick. The common variety of the tree is actually used to produce incense and essential oils. And as we walk back, we see so many Nazcas. They all seem to be grouped up in breeding pairs of 2. The volcanic geology of the Galapagos is very interesting, well, at least if you're a geologist. The Genovesa Island, like all the islands, are formed as shield volcanoes with broad, gentle slopes that are built up over time by repeated lava flows. And then eventually the volcanic crater collapsed, forming Darwin Bay, and that's surrounded by steep cliffs, and that provides homes for a lot of the seabirds that we've been seeing. So this is a cartoon cross-section of a shield volcano. They're constructed of very fluid lava flows that flow out and occur repeatedly over time. They're much wider than they are tall. As an example of the largest shield volcano on Earth, we can look to Hawaii's Mauna Loa. It's roughly 200 kilometers wide and 9,000 meters tall, measured from the ocean floor. In comparison, Genovesa Island is 30 kilometers wide and 2,000 meters tall, also measured from the ocean floor. Currently, only a little bit is still visible above the ocean surface. Well, shield volcanoes are located over a hot spot in the mantle that has melted a hole in the overlying oceanic plate, allowing the magma to flow up through it. The biggest shield volcano that we know of is Olympus Mons on the planet Mars. And to end this video, we'll make a note that Sean's birthday was on the 20th, and Jillian had arranged for a birthday cake for him after dinner, baked by the ship's chef.